morning everyone. Today we are going to see software testing unit 3 session 2. In the previous session we have seen the concept, what is performance testing, why we need performance testing, factors that govern performance testing and process of performance testing. In today's topic we'll see the methodology for performance testing. So these are the steps in detail how to carry out the performance testing. So the first point which we are going to see is collecting requirements. So collecting requirements to conduct the performance testing is very important because you conduct the performance testing to improve the quality of the software product. So you need to gather the requirements from such points, such fields that should improve the efficiency of the performance, should improve the efficiency of the software testing. So those requirements you need to select. Next is writing test cases, automating performance test cases, executing performance test cases, analyzing performance test results, performance tuning, performance benchmarking, recommending right configuration for the customers. So these are the various steps which you are going to carry out. First point we'll see collecting requirements. So as I told you, from various points, various factors you are going to consider from which you need to collect the requirements for performance testing. So some of the points you're going to take, some of the requirements you're going to take by comparing to the previous release of the same product. So based on that performance, you're going to select the requirements. Next, compare to the competitive product. Next requirements you're going to select from compare to absolute numbers derived from actual need. Next is derived from architecture and design. So from these points, you're going to collect the requirements. And there are two types of requirements you need to consider for this performance testing. First one is generic requirements. So generic requirements are those requirements that are common across all products in the product domain area. So the requirements which are commonly used, which are mostly used in the product domain area, those requirements you're going to select and you're going to check out how is the performance of those requirements. So you need to select. Like say time taken to load a page, or response when a mouse is cleared, or time taken to navigate between screens. So when you are performing these requirements, when you are conducting, so these factors you are going to consider to perform this requirement testing. Next requirement you are going to consider is, are those requirements that depend on implementation for a particular product and differ from one product to another. So these are specific requirements that you need to consider from one product to another product, which differ from one product to another product. Like see, time taken to withdraw cash in an ATM. So in this requirement, time is very important. So you are going to take the time in a different ways and you are going to test this requirement. Writing test cases. So after identifying which requirement to select for performance testing, you need to write the test cases in detail so that you can keep record of each requirement and how is the performance of each requirement and which is the best requirement and which requirement is performing what you will understand. So for writing test cases, first of all you need to list operations or business transactions to be tested, steps for executing those operations transactions, then list the product parameters, operating system parameters that impact the performance testing and their values. So for each requirement, you're going to specify what type of operating system it supports and other parameters. Loading pattern. So for each requirement, you're going to decide what is the loading pattern. And for each requirement, you're also going to decide resource and their configurations. And then the expected result. What is the expected result? And then the product version and competitive products to be compared. So these factors you are going to consider while writing the test cases. This is one example of test cases, how to write the test cases. So after identifying requirements, now suppose this ATM cash withdrawal, you identified the requirements and you are going to test the performance of this ATM cash withdrawal. So expected response time. So within how much time you want the response. So first, your expected response time is within 2 seconds and this is the loading pattern. This is the loading pattern. So within 2 seconds, up to 10,000 simultaneous access by users. So you are testing this performance. This is the loading pattern. And how should be the machine configuration for this loading pattern? It is Pentium 4 and RAM and broadband network. So this type of network is. So based on this configuration, this test you are going to conduct. See, another test case you return, another test you are going to conduct is for 40 seconds. For 40 seconds, you are going to see the performance up to 10,000 simultaneous access by users. And then what is the loading pattern? So dial-up network is used here instead of broadband network. Now this is the next test case. And for this, your expected time is 4 seconds. And what is the loading pattern? More than 10,000 but below 20,000 simultaneous access by users. So you have changed here the pattern, and this is the configuration which is needed for this. So these are the various test cases you have written, and that requirement you are going to test from various response time, various pattern and various machine configurations. And you are going to check out which is the how the system is giving the performance, because this is the important requirement which will be commonly mostly used by the users. So it has to be the response from the system, response for these requirements must be quick, and whether it is even accessed by a lot of people. Next is automating performance test cases. Now you already identified the requirements, you have written the test cases. Now you need to decide for which type of requirements you are going to automate. Automate means for which type of test cases you are going to use the tools, various tools. So that there is mostly to conduct this performance testing, you have to go for the automation, that is automation tools. So to carry out this performance testing manually, it is going to take a lot of time, lot of effort, and the results you cannot say that the results can be accurate or no. Performance testing naturally lends to automation due to following characteristics. So performance testing is repetitive. Why you need to go for the automation? Because performance testing is repetitive, because you're going to repeat it all the time. Like in test cases we have seen, the ATM cash withdrawal requirement is repeated so many times. Once you have tested it with 2 seconds, once you have tested it with 40 seconds, once you have tested it with 50 seconds, and same requirement again you have changed the configuration, you have changed the loading pattern. So that's why you need to go for the automation. Next is performance testing cannot be effective without automation. As I told you, if you go for the manual testing, you cannot say that you will get the accurate result. But if you go for automation, you are sure that you are going to get the accurate result within a less time and very quick. The results for performance testing need to be accurate. Manually calculating the response time, throughput, and so on can introduce inaccuracy. So as I told you, if you manually go on calculating the response time, throughput, it is going to take a lot of time, lot of days, and also the data result which you get, you cannot say it is accurate, because the humans have the habit to make the mistakes. So you need to go for this performance testing for quick result and for quick decisions whether your system is requirements, how it is performing. Next point is analysis of performance results and failures needs to be taken into account, like log files, trace files, resource utilization. And one more, analysis of performance results and failures needs to be taken. Even you need to consider here log files, trace files, and resource utilization. You need to trace here, you need to analyze here, how is the performance here, you need to check all log files, trace files, how is the memory utilization or any other resource utilization. Next step is executing performance test cases. So after deciding which test cases to go automation, then you need to execute those. So involves less effort for execution but more effort for planning, data collection and analysis. You can execute those using very less effort, but before executing it, you need to do a lot of planning, data collection and analysis. Now after executing also, you need to do analysis. That is very important. So points to be collected while executing performance testing. Okay, when you execute, what points you are going to consider? Start and end time of test case executed. Okay, when that particular requirement started execution and ended, how much response. So you'll find out here how much response it has taken to give. Log and trace files of the product. Yes, you're going to check out all log files and trace files, because step by step execution lines it will be showing, and if you read it, if you go through it, you will understand how it is performing. Next is utilization of resources. Then that is CPU, memory, network utilization, how it is used. And then configuration of all environment factors, in which configuration it is giving the best result, that will understand. Then response time will understand, as I told you, by start and end time you are going to calculate the response time. Then you will also find out what is the throughput speed, latency, and so on. So these all points you are going to gather after executing those test cases. Sample configuration performance test. So this is the querying ATM, account balance, and number of users, and test environment. So this is the performance test which is conducted, under which test environment it is. So that is specified here: operating system, Windows NT, and server. ATM cash withdrawal for 20 users, and this is the test environment for that. And then ATM user profile query for 20 users, and this is the test environment for particular requirement. So these are the different requirements, and it is conducted for how many number of users, and test environment is different. Once it is conducted with Windows NT, once it is conducted with Windows 98, and once it is conducted with Windows 2000. See, so these requirements are tested on various operating systems and various configurations. Now next, analyzing the performance test results. So analyzing performance test results require multidimensional thinking, requires product knowledge, analytical thinking, and statistical background. So to analyze the performance test results, the expert skilled people are needed who has the experience in these fields and all, because they are the best to analyze and all by counting their experience. And also the product knowledge is very necessary here, because they should know how exactly what the user wants and how is the working of the product. Analyzing the performance test results. So these are the points which are needed for analyzing. So calculating the mean of the performance test result data. Mean time is calculated. Calculating the standard deviation. So that is start and end time will be considered here to calculate mean, standard deviation. Differentiating the performance data when the resources are available completely. Then next, whether performance of the product is consistent when tests are executed multiple times. So how is the performance of the product when you are executing the same all the times? What is the performance can be expected for what type of configuration? So what is the optimum throughput, response time of the product for a set of factors such as load, resources, and parameter? So these are the points which you are going to consider for analyzing. You are going to compare the test case results with each, and you are going to find out which is the best. So performance tuning is nothing but adjusting the software product's behavior, that is loading and reducing, increasing the load, again decreasing the load according to the needs. That is done here. So there are two steps involved in this: tuning the product parameter and tuning the operating system and parameters. So various software product parameters you are going to adjust it, and another is adjusting the operating system and other parameters. So tuning the product parameters, in this what you are going to do: repeat performance tests for different values of each parameter. So you are going to repeat performance tests for taking each parameter of the product. The important parameters you are going to consider: when the particular parameter value is changed, it needs changes in other parameters. Then repeat the performance tests for different values, for default values. Test for low and high values for each parameter. So which are the important parameters of the product you are going to consider, and you are going to make the adjustment in it. You are going to change it. Some of the values you are going to keep default. Some of the values you are going to increase and decrease. So these are the parameters for operating system and other parameters of that. So there are various parameters like file system related parameters, that is number of open files permitted. Then disk management parameters like simultaneous disk read and writes. Memory management parameters like virtual machine, page size, and number of pages. Then process management parameters, enabling and disabling processors in multi-processor environment. Then network parameters like setting TCP/IP, timeout, So these are related to operating system and its parameters. So this tuning the operating system parameters, it is going to see the performance of your operating system, whether it is a Windows 98, Windows 2000, Windows 9 NT. So in which operating system your product is behaving best, that will be measured here, tested here. Next is performance benchmarking. So it is about comparing the performance of product transaction with the competitors. No two products can have the same architecture, design, functionality and code. So comparing a software product behavior with other competitive products and try to improve it. So identifying the transactions and scenarios and the test configuration. So compare your product with the transaction scenarios and test configurations with other product. Then comparing the performance of different products. You can select more than one competitive product and compare your product. Tuning the parameters of the product being compared fairly to deliver the best performance. And publishing the results of performance benchmarking. So how your product is best when you compare it with other products. Next is capacity planning. Performance requirements and performance results are taken as input requirements, and the configuration needed to satisfy that set of requirements are derived. So for each requirement you need to decide the configurations. So that is capacity planning. For each requirement, what configurations you are going to keep and how much capacity you want for each requirement. So this you need to plan and you need to set it for every requirement. Next is tools for performance testing. So as I told you, performance testing you cannot carry out manually. It is very difficult and it takes a lot of days. So you need to go for the automation. So there are various performance testing tools available in the market based on functional performance tools and load testing tools. So functional performance tools helps in recording and playing back the transactions and obtaining performance number. So there are recording tools available to record the performance of the software product. Everything will be recorded. Again it will be played back and it will be response will be measured. Next is simulate the load condition for performance testing without having to keep that many users or machines. So load testing, you're going to increase the number of users, you're going to increase the number of transactions, you're going to increase the data size, and you're going to check out the functionality of every requirement. So this you can do quickly and fast using only the tools. So these are the various tools available in the market. Only few are mentioned here. Functional performance tools are Windrunner from Mercury. This is the companies from where you will get the tools. QA Partner from Compuvare. Silk Test from Sage. And load testing tools are Load Runner from Mercury, QA Load from Compuvare, Silk Performer, etc. So in today's session, we have studied various methods of the performance testing and tools. In the next section, we'll come up with new topic. Thank you.